You'll learn very shortly that there are three main classes of glands in insects. They're all in some way associated with the cuticle. Now, in this video, I'm just going to go through very, very quickly, briefly, the three classes so you get an idea of how exactly they work. Now, notice importantly that class 1 and class 2 glands do not have any physical connection from the gland cell shown in these musky yellow colored cells to the external environment, like in class 3 gland cells. So class 1 gland cells are really interesting, and they are just beneath the cuticular surface, and they've got all of these tiny little microvilli, and they actually produce glands, largely pheromones, and again, no immediate contact with the outside, but either by processes of diffusion or convection, which we'll talk about in another module, are able to still pass through the cuticular layer to the outside as required. But importantly, these cells do not have any contact with the outside, and they are located just beneath the cuticular layers. Now, class 2 glands are a lot further in. Now, you've probably learned about cuticular hydrocarbons that insects make. And so these enocytes, so the O in the front is silent, these enocytes are perhaps the most dominant form of class 2 gland cells, and they are largely responsible for cuticular hydrocarbon production. Now, again, if cuticular hydrocarbons are so important, and as the name suggests, they need to get to the cuticle, why don't they operate like class 3 cells? Well, they get carried away by these lipophorins. Now, the name probably tells you something about the nature of these lipophorins, but we don't need to go into too much detail, except that the for, right, phoresis, you probably remember, suggests that it's a carrier, like a transport type molecule. So it actually assists with a lot of moving of these cuticular hydrocarbons out to the cuticle itself. But importantly, again, class 1, class 2 gland cells do not have any physical contact with the outside. Fast forward to class 3 now. There are a good number of cells that operate like that. And as you can see, the cell itself has this really interesting complex structure. Of course, these darker regions are the nucleus, but notice that how this class 3 type gland cell basically also has a bit of a reservoir in the middle, which of course it then secretes anything that it wants to secrete, like waxes being a good example. And then there is some apparatus by which there is a duct which is lined by cuticle, and there is a duct that is able to push any of the secretions out into the outside the cuticular layer. So these are the three main classes of gland cells, and you're going to learn a little bit more detail about them in the paragraphs to come.